back to the the live stream, right? I don't have a really name for it yet. I guess I'll think of something, but I am Dr. Keith Fairclough. I am your resident relationship strategist, and I'm here to help you communicate better in your relationship so you guys can actually connect, understand one another, end all the fighting, end all the stonewalling, and actually have a healthy, strong relationship. Eliminate resentment, build connection, all that, right? That's what all these things, these live streams that I do, that's what they're all about. So today we're going to be talking about you statements, right? We probably talked about it sometime in the past before, but I think it's just really important for us to revisit this. One of those keystone things that I think so many relationships struggle with is you statements. And the thing is, we don't even know it, right? So without further ado, let's just hop into it, right? So we actually think, what are you statements? You statements are, it's just simply that. It's a statement that starts with you, right? It's focused on somebody else. It's not focused on us. It's not focused on our experience. It's not focused on what we think or what we feel. It's focused on somebody else. It's focused on our critique of somebody else. And that's the problem. That's the issue with you statements. They're not about you. They're about somebody else. So many people, they laud themselves as great communicators. They talk about how, I can express myself and not to do any gender war things though, but a lot of women will say, yeah, I'm great at communicating. I'm great at communicating. I know how to articulate myself and everything like that. I'm like, great, awesome. All right, well, let me hear you articulate yourself. When it comes to talking about your spouse or talking to your spouse or talking to your boyfriend or whatever the case may be. And then they start hitting you with a whole bunch of you statements. Oh, it's articulate. I'll give them that. It is very articulate. You don't do this. You don't do that. You don't love me. You don't care about me. You don't ever help me. You don't consider me. Oh, it's articulate. All right. Oh, it is very articulate, very detailed, in fact, right? But you go on down the line and they didn't share not one thing about themselves. And no, I'm not against women or anything along those lines, because guys do the exact same thing. Those guys that say they know how to communicate, or those guys that say, yeah, I do try to communicate and share, but just never lands. Like, she always has a problem with it. She turns around on me, things like that. Then you ask them how do they communicate. Oh, well, yeah, because I tell her what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. I say, well, you don't ever want to be intimate, and you don't do this, and you don't do that, and you don't help me, and you don't know how hard it is, and you, and you, and you, and you. And these are the great communicators, right? And I'm not obviously digging at anybody, because the fact of the matter is, this is how we've been conditioned our entire life. Think about your childhood. Any of you, think about your childhood. Think about how issues were brought up when you were younger, with your parents, with your siblings, at school. And tell me, I don't even got to know who you are. I don't even got to know where you're from. But I guarantee you were riddled with you statements. You don't study. You don't do your homework. You're lazy. You're selfish. You don't care. You don't try. You made this mess. You need to clean it up. You made a mistake. You're not trying hard enough. You took my stuff. We are literally buried in you statements from the time we're born until the time, obviously, we get in some type of relationship. Buried in you statements. And so it's no wonder that we get to our relationships and we talk the same way. And sometimes what we'll even do, because I've heard situations where, guys will be like, yeah, it's your tone, it's your tone, it's your tone. And then the women change the tone and it's still a problem. And the woman's confused. She's like, but I changed my tone. I don't understand what the problem is. Well, the problem is you're still using you statements. That's the problem. Sir, ma'am, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, you're still using you statements. That's the problem. That is the problem. And until you learn to stop using you statements, until you learn to start using I statements, you will continuously have issues in your relationship. Now, I'm going to break down why this is a problem before we go into the solution. So the first thing is that you have to understand that when you use a you statement, these are the things you're doing to your significant other, the person you say you love, the person you committed your life to, the person you want to serve, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, the person you say you will die for, the person that you will sacrifice for. This is what you're doing to them every single time, whether it's intentional or not. You're blaming them, you're accusing them, you're making assumptions about them, you're criticizing them, you're tearing them down with contempt. You are systematically attacking your significant other every single time you use you statements. Every time you're attacking them. You wonder why they get defensive. You wonder why when you bring stuff up and you think you're trying to convey yourself and they come back and they bring their own stuff up, you wonder why they do that. It's because you're attacking them. They're becoming defensive because they're under attack. That's why. And it's not a perceived attack. Well, that's just their perspective, and they're taking it the wrong way. No, they're taking it exactly as you're saying it. That's the problem. You're giving it the wrong way. What you think is a hug is actually a gut check, a punch in the face, rocking someone's jaw. You think that you're conveying it the right way, but you're not. You think because your tone is low, that's conveying it the right way, but it's not. It's not how any of this works. You statements systematically destroy our significant other. They push them away over and over and over and over again. And there's no amount of love that can hold up to a lifetime of you statements of someone getting beat up over and over and over again and attacked over and over and over again. And the sad part is you guys get into this argument, it blows up, and then you guys split up, and you come back together, and it's the same cycle over and over and over again because we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. You statements are destructive to a relationship. Think about it. How would you feel if someone was blaming you all the time? If they were accusing you all the time? They're making assumptions about you all the time. They're criticizing you all the time. They were showing you contempt all the time. Every time they opened their mouth and communicated anything to you, it was some type of attack. How would you feel? How would you think about it? And if you have kids, think about that. How would you feel if your kid getting attacked every single day? How would you feel about that? Was that something you'd want to happen? And unfortunately, we do this all the time, and we don't even know we're doing it because that's all we've known. And I think that's so important. Just stop right here in this live stream for just a moment, or if you're watching the replay, just stop for just a moment, because we're so quick to say they're manipulative, they're gaslighting, they're narcissists, they're this, they're that. We're so quick to make these judgments about the person who's using the you statements or the person who's being defensive. We're so quick to make these judgments without stopping to understand where this all came from in the first place and what's even happening. What's happening is we're unintentionally attacking one another. We don't even know we're attacking one another. We think we're trying to convey a message, and we're not even doing it the right way because we never learned how. We never saw it from our parents. Our parents don't know anything about I statements. Most of our parents don't know anything about good communication. Most of our grandparents don't know about that. They don't. Just because you've been together for a long time doesn't mean you had a healthy relationship. I'm sorry. But this is something that we can break, a generational pattern that we can break. But we have to first recognize where it came from. We have to recognize what it is. We have to recognize how we can do something different, how can we do something better. All right. So another problem. I know I usually have 3 problems, but today I just have 2, right? The ones I listed before, that's enough. I promise you, that's enough problems in and of itself of using you statements. The second thing, and this part is for the speaker specifically. So the first problem was about what the listener, how they're receiving it, whether you want to receive it like that or not. This problem right here is actually about the speaker. It's about you. You're conveying a message, right? Because here's the thing. The message you're trying to convey is important. Your thoughts, your feelings, those are important. They matter. They need to be understood. They need to be heard. They do. So, but what happens is, and when you use you statements, what ends up happening? Your message becomes very, very, very unclear. I want you to think of it like this. If I'm trying to convey a message to you, if I'm using you statements, I'm trying to tell you about me. This might actually get kind of confusing, so just follow along, and I'm going to try to move slow. If I am trying to convey a message about me, about what I think, about what I feel, about what I am experiencing, about what I need. How can I do that if I'm not talking about myself? I'm talking about you. If I'm telling you where you're falling short and how you don't care and how you don't love me and how you don't show up for me and how you aren't a great dad and how you aren't a great mom and how you aren't you don't spend enough time with me, you don't take out the trash, you don't sleep with me, you don't I'm just that's what I'm doing. How in the world, even if you could weather the storm, the listener can weather the storm of all that blame and accusations and assumptions, even if they could weather the storm of all that, they still don't know what you are experiencing because you're not sharing it. All you are doing is talking about them. And then we get confused as to why they don't understand where we're coming from. Well, it's because we didn't actually share where we're coming from. All we did was levy a whole bunch of attacks and assumptions on our partner or our loved one, our wife, our husband. Like, all we did was levy a whole bunch of attacks on them. And so now they're sitting there probably trying to keep their self-worth together, trying to keep their confidence together, trying to keep the thoughts of not being enough at bay, while also trying to validate you and empathize with you and share and be there for you. And that's the crazy part. How can they even empathize with you? A lot of times they just apologize. Like, I'm sorry. I'll try to do better. But you at no point in time said, this is what I'm experiencing. I'm hurt. I'm sad. I'm alone. I don't feel like I'm enough. I feel like I'm not getting what I need. And this is why. And so it's unclear. So even if they can weather the storm of you statements, even if they can weather that abuse, your message is still not going to get across. So now guess what? Now you're unfulfilled because your needs aren't met, because your needs are important. And that's a key thing, right? So I'm not here beating anybody up for using you statements. I already explained to you earlier that I understand where it comes from, and I hope you understand as well. We were born into this thing, right? Like we were trained in using you statements from a very, very young age. No one ever taught us about I statements. So that's why we do it. And that's why, levying these accusations against each other, it's not doing us any favors. We just got to learn the skills to do our relationships better. That's it. So for the speaker, your needs are not going to be met because your message is not clear. Your message is not clear because you're so focused talking about the other person. You're not talking about what you need, what you're experiencing, what you went through, how you're seeing things. You're not even sharing your perspective. So how can they validate you? There's nothing to validate. You want them to validate that they're a horrible person? You want them to validate that they're a bad father or a bad mother? You want to validate that they're a bad husband, a bad wife? Is that what you want them to validate? So what I hear you saying is, I suck at being a husband or I suck at being a wife. Is that right? Oh, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. And if anyone does do that, their self-esteem is in the toilet, their self-worth is in the trash, and their self-confidence is out the window. And they're still not going to be able to connect with you. You're still not going to be happy because your partner, your significant other, your husband, your wife, they're dying on the inside every time that happens. So when you use you statements, your message is very unclear and it doesn't come across the right way. And unfortunately, both of you are not heard, not validated, not understood. So how do we fix this, right? How do we fix you statements? How do we stop using you statements and start focusing on the right communication? Well, it's real simple. It's just a switch, right? It really is. Instead of using you statements, we use I statements. We focus solely and wholly on ourselves, what we think, what we feel, what our experience is, what our perspective is, how that came to be. And we use what I call, there's probably other methods out there as well for I statements, other templates, but I have a template called the SIR method where you state the situation, then you state your emotion, then you state the reason, then you state the request. The situation is what objectively happened. So we're not making judgments, we're not making assumptions, we're not doing any of those things. What objectively happened? Well, when you came home late, right, that objectively happened. What I mean by that is anybody would come home and see that. That's not an accusation. If they were supposed to be home at 8 and they came home at 9, objectively, they came home late. So that's not an accusation. And then you take the feeling, the emotion, right? I felt hurt. Use an emotion word, right? Not I felt you were disrespectful or I felt that you don't care about me. That's just a you statement failed within the I statement. And we'll have to talk about that another time. Not, oh, you don't care about the family or you don't think we're important. That's what I felt. No, not that. It's an actual emotion. What did your brain tell you about this situation? What did it bring to your attention? Were you hurt? Were you sad? Were you lonely? Were you jealous? Were you envious? What were you? Anxious, overwhelmed, depressed, embarrassed, angry? Like, what were you? Frustrated? An emotion word. You got to put that in there, right? They can't empathize with something that's not there. You empathize with someone's emotions. If you don't share your emotions, you can't get the empathy. Right. So now you got the situation, now you got the emotion, now you got the reason. This is how you tie it all together. This helps the other person understand how that situation generated that emotion. Because we were supposed to spend time together at 8, and when you didn't come home and you didn't let me know, it just hurt me. It made me sad. So I didn't say the emotions before, so I said maybe it hurt and sad, right? And so that's the reason. Now they understand, okay, when I came home late, that hurt you, made you sad because, we wanted to spend time together and I didn't let you know what was going on. Okay, that makes sense, right? Now the last part's important as well. The request. The request is something that gives a mutual benefit, right? So both people win. Hey, if you're going to be late, please just shoot me a text and let me know. And then that way we can adjust plans to accommodate your schedule. And then when we can both win on the other side, we can spend more time together or do what we need to do on the other side. And that's it. You just shared exactly what you thought, what you felt, why you felt that, and what you would like, the whole thing. And you can do that in like 30 seconds. So those 2, 3, 4, 5-hour conversations, the one where there's fighting and yelling and screaming and arguing and beating each other up and all those things like that and dragging each other to the mud and calling names and saying we want to get a divorce and break up and, your parents and your mama and your daddy and and your trauma and that's what all from, just to get to the end and be like, oh yeah, I just wanted to spend time with you. I was disappointed when you didn't talk to me. And so I just want you to let me know, when you're going to be late so we can make other plans. 30 seconds. 5 hours, right? Or days. You take your pick. I statements using the SIR method to get your conversations done anywhere from 30 seconds to maybe, depending on how much context you have and other things you want to probably add in there or whatnot, as far as like maybe there's more to talk about, 30 seconds to 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, right? We're talking about problems being resolved just like that. Just like that. Versus you can continue to use you statements where you're going to have those 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-hour conversations, 3, 4, 10-day conversations, same cycles of fighting and arguing and yelling and cussing and fussing. And you can choose that. You can choose that, right? You can choose to stay the same, do the same thing, get the same result, and lose the love of your life. Push them away. Because you don't want to change how you learned to communicate when you were younger. I'm telling you right now, you statements are doing you absolutely no favors in your relationship. They're tearing you down, they're breaking you down, and it's not helping anybody at any point in time. All right. So, with that being said, I statements. Again, if you have some other method you want to use with I statements, please feel free to go right ahead and use it. I like my SIR method. It's very clear. It's very clean. It's very systematic. You can literally plug and play. If you get it, you can literally journal. If you like to journal, right? Let's say you have an issue or problem with your significant other, right? Your husband, your wife, whoever, right? And you journal. And you're like, man, I can't stand this person and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. And you just go into town because you're trying to process and get it out, right? What you can do is take this template. Again, SIR, situation, emotion, reason, request. Put all that, copy and paste it, throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, put my journaling message, put it into the SIR method so I can convey it properly to my significant other, and it will literally do it for you. You don't even got to it's no even guesswork to it anymore. There's literally no excuse for us not to be using I statements. Because the thing is, when it comes to communication and relationships, there is no rule that says I can't write it down on paper beforehand. I can't send it in a text. I can't write it down. I can't read it from my phone. There's no rule that says that. The goal is for you to understand how you guys get there. That's all that matters. You want to get there in the cleanest, easiest way possible. Easiest, cleanest way possible. So, with all that being said, and sorry, I'm just getting to the comments right now, and I know we got to wrap it up because I have to hop into a session. But no, Mika, you're 100% correct. 100% correct. It turns the dialogue into a monologue, and that's if there's no fighting going back and forth, right? It turns, as far as authenticity and accountability, you're absolutely correct. Because who wants to open up and be their full authentic self when they're being blamed and attacked and torn apart? Nobody does. Because why? Because we feel you don't care. That's what ends up happening. It's like, if I'm being attacked like this, you must not care about me. That's what the assumption that's made. I'm not saying that's a good assumption. I'm just saying that's what ends up happening, right? That's what ends up happening. So with all that being said, guys, if you need any help, hit the replay. You guys could, use the method. I have other videos that talk about it in more detail. Check out some of the other live streams I did earlier this week. I did one on personal responsibility yesterday. The day before, I did another one on doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Really helpful, really powerful. Definitely recommend you guys do that. Definitely have resources and things like that. I'll be back. I may or may not be back the next few days because I'm going to be going out of town. So I may or may not be on. It just depends on how I'm able to travel with my equipment and things like that. But if not, then I'll see you guys again on Sunday. But yeah, guys, remember, no more you statements. Use I statements. Please, 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 please use I statements. Save your relationship. Improve your communication. Improve that connection. All right. And so if you guys need any help, please feel free to reach out. Because as always, I always say it, just always remember that you are not alone. Thank you. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day. And Mika and Keith, I really appreciate you guys showing up. Appreciate the messages. Thank you very much. And this is the last one right here. The authenticity awakens, our authenticity, right? Awakens the authenticity of others. I love that. It's true. Because when you're yourself, you give other people permission to do the same. They see that it's okay to do that. So, all right. But you guys take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day. Use I statements. No more you statements. And we'll be back, right? Take care.